Well, I'm so happy to have Konda Mason here with us today. She's a friend of Namchak and a dear friend of mine. She is an accomplished businesswoman, community organizer, activist, meditation teacher. She's on our Namchak advisory board, the Spirit Rock board, the On Being board, or one of their boards. I'm probably missing about 7 dozen boards that Konda's on. She's kind of everywhere doing everything, just an amazing, accomplished woman, including the fact that she has a diploma in permaculture, and we're very excited about permaculture at Namchak. And she has her own garden and lives in her sister in the East Bay with her 2 dogs. So welcome, Konda. I'm so happy you came. And I asked Konda to join us, not to give us answers all tied up in a pretty bow tonight. Our country likes quick and easy answers. You know, you see ads, learn guitar in 5 easy lessons. But that's not gonna help us right now. In fact, we could go running off in some direction that takes us to where we don't really wanna go. And isn't that kind of what's already happened? So of course, we all wanna know what to do. And it's hard to sit in the not knowing. But if our answers haven't emerged and fully formed, then that's what's being asked of us by this moment. So we invite you all to sit with us in the not knowing and see if it helps your own processing. Konda will share where she's at. You'll probably hear from me a little bit about where I'm at this historic moment that we're all in together. And if we run out of things to talk about, which Konda and I have never done so far, I have a problem statement or two to spark some thinking. And Konda, I noticed you had one on your mind the other day, yesterday, I guess, when we talked, and you may have another one. So again, those may come up, but no expectation of answers at this time. This isn't a dress-up party. This is a come as you are party. So I thought we might start, Konda, by mentioning that week of deep retreat that you were just in, where you were weaving back and forth between sessions, sitting in the profound depth of true reality, and then weaving out into this samsaric mayhem that we're in, you know, and then back into the depths and out and so on. Would you like to start there?
Sure. Thank you, first of all, for inviting me and for tolerating my my answer of how I could show up today. I really appreciate that.
I welcome it. No, this is just right.
Yeah, it was, as you said, Tsomo, I have been, yeah, this week has coincided with a retreat that I had already planned many weeks ago. And little did I know that it would coincide with this intense week in America, you know, with all that's happening. Oh man, I see a good friend of mine, Lev, out there. And so I didn't know it was going to coincide with that. And when I had been in the trenches with, you know, when the murder happened of George Floyd's murder, and I was actually running my own online retreat, actually the day that it happened. And we ended up kind of throwing away our script and we had 45 people online on a 2-day retreat. And we ended up just going into what was happening here in this country and in Minnesota. And so right after that, I had my own retreat lined up to sit into this deep, it was a deep meditation retreat, and like it's called 9 bodies, where you 9 levels of consciousness. So it's one of those deep immersion retreats that I had planned. And I almost said, how can I do this? How can I do this when this is happening in the world? How can I go and sit retreat here at home, of course, with lots of hours of sitting. And of course I said, of course I'm going to do it. And it turned out to be absolutely what I needed. I was in this incredibly deep samadhi type of retreat practice, an hour here, and then, like it was about 5 hours a day in the day. And in between hours, I was back on my computer, back, fielding a million phone calls and texts and emails about, can you do this? Can you do that? Can you speak here? Can you do that? And basically, I was meeting with primarily with Black people, and really feeling into how we were. And what was more important to me at the time was, how are we Black people doing? And the invitation to speak and do and help with white people's desires to, who were reeling from what has happened, who were genuinely hurt and disgusted and confused. I was not available for that.
Yeah.
I was not available for that. And what I was available for is for my own self-care of meditation. And so it was really kind of beautiful that I had the opportunity to not be in the world 100% at all. I was 50% in. On the other side of this is my meditation space. And I just spent 7 days in there, and it was what I needed to calm my reactivity, to be able to metabolize everything, my feelings, my thoughts, and my people who were really struggling and having a hard time. So I was gifted that retreat, and I realized from doing it just how vital it is, self-care and contemplative practice in the world, because it really required me to sit like 5-6 hours every day and come out, and the next hour be right here in this crazy intense situation, and then go back and then come back and go back and go. I was like back and forth like that. And it was good training for me, honestly. And it also, I realized that my place right now which I was telling Lama Tsomo yesterday when she invited me to have this call, and I realized that I really am silent right now. I'm not really saying yes to these opportunities to speak to people, because I'm in my own process. I'm really in my own process, and I don't want to say something that is either not new, and because I'm in this trajectory, something new is stirring in me. There's an evolutionary impulse of some sort that I feel, and I'm moving from somewhere to somewhere else. And I don't want to speak from where I was. I want to speak from where I'm headed. And so I've been saying no. But Lama Tsomo, I can't ever say no to you. You're my deep friend and comrade. You are my deep friend and comrade.
And you're mine.
Yeah. And so, I was like, how can we do this? How can I be here and not have the answers that people want from me? Because I don't have them, and I don't have them right now. And what would that look like to be on an hour Zoom call and not tell you exactly what to do? Because that's not what it is for me right now. So I'm being very real. This is raw. You got me on a day that I am spinning a little bit as well. My emotions are raw. And this is what we're going to do for an hour.
That's just right. I mean, when you said yesterday, I can't, come online for anything and speak out with answers right now. I'm in process. I thought, isn't that where we all are? And so for you to model that, I think is helpful for everybody. Because as I said earlier, running off in the wrong direction is already, we've had enough of that,
400 years. 400
Yeah,
years.
that's right. So I remember you saying on the phone, you know, better to ask, um, what are you not going to do? What have you been doing that you're not going to do? I
Yeah,
remember you saying that.
yeah. I have so many beautiful people in my life. I mean, that is where I am abundant and rich, is in the people that I have in my life. Just gorgeous people of all ethnicities and persuasions and you name it. Countries and my New Zealand, Auntie Diane has been blowing up my phone, and um,
She's listening
from,
right.
say that again.
She's listening right now.
Oh, beautiful. Auntie Diane, are you out there? Okay, beautiful. I know I haven't gotten back to you. I haven't gotten back to anybody. So forgive me. And, there's just a lot that is coming at me right now. And so I'm getting these emails. They're saying, how can I help you? What can I do? I'm devastated. And quite honestly, what I did in one email is just turned it around, because honestly, my question was, what can you do? What do you need to stop doing?
Mm-hmm.
What do you need to stop doing? Like really, like honestly,
Mm-hmm.
what do you need to stop doing? And I just want to turn this ship around, because it always feels like, and I'm going to say something. I'm just going to start talking. Okay, here we go.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. So there's this tendency right now for white people to want to be an ally. And I don't prescribe to that word ally. And I'll tell you why.
Mm.
An ally is someone who is helping someone else with a problem. Like, this is your issue, and I'm going to be an ally to it.
Yeah, right.
It takes absolute no responsibility for the problem. Okay? This whole racial construct is something that white people invented.
Yeah.
Okay? And its ramifications. And so the idea that you want to be an ally to me or to any person of color or a Black person is something that I really don't ascribe to.
Mm-hmm.
This is not Black people's problem.
Right.
And anything around race is not Black people's problem. It is a construct and a system that was invented and created to prioritize a certain group of people over another. And we have all have our places and have been complicit. And so then to say I want to ally with you
Mm-hmm.
is not the right, in my opinion, the
Mm-hmm.
right relationship. It's not the right relationship.
Right.
And so, you know, I'm in a email chain right now with some beautiful people who just brought this up yesterday. It's one of my things, right? This word ally. And someone sent me an email. I'm in this chain of all these beautiful people saying, you know, the young people today, the young Black people today are calling, they're saying accomplice, like you're an accomplice. So they don't like the word ally, but they're talking about accomplice. And they said it for a different reason. I had a whole conversation on email of why I don't like the word ally. And I haven't come up with the right word that works for me, but if there's anything close to it, it's a partner. We are partnering in this situation.
Mm.
It means co-responsibility.
Yeah.
And ally is, so you're not doing me or people of color or Black people any kind of help or favor. It's like, what do you need to look at?
Mm-hmm.
What do you need to really look at in your lives and the way you live your life and all the things that that involves that, and what changes need to be made, you know, internally and externally, and both internally and externally, as the Buddha said. So I am just wanting to throw that into the room, the virtual room here, that yeah, this is not Black people's problem. And taking full responsibility, you know, whether you created it or not, you know, because you didn't, you know, you came into this world like this. You didn't create this. I didn't create it. You didn't create it. And yet we all have responsibility for it and to transform it. And so that's kind of where I'm at. And white folks really need to really look at and talk to each other and figure this out. Mm-hmm. And figure out how to deconstruct white supremacy. It has to be deconstructed if we're going to do anything, if we're really going to do anything that's transformative.
Well, that's right. And it's for the benefit of the whole country, all of us. It is an everybody problem. And so I loved hearing you say that because I said it last week. And I love the word partnering. You know,
yeah, I think that might be it. Mm-hmm. It feels way better to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so because it has the autonomy of each and the connection in partnership and that working together on equal footing.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah, otherwise it's, it continues to be absolving a responsibility on the white side of the equation. It feels that way to me. So I'm not one to, don't ally with me.
Yeah. And there's something in the way you're talking about ally, you know, that then it brings to light the fact that then it seems like it's, how can I say this? Like I could, you know, volunteer and make myself feel good, you know, if I want to, but I don't, you know, have to. I could just sit in my privilege and not, you know, there's that little bit of that connotation. Right. And partnering is a different kind of stepping up, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It's, you know, when you're a partner with somebody, everybody has equal responsibility to take care of the business. And
yeah, and or we got to clean it up.
That's right. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And so yeah, you know, there's so much going on in my heart and mind. And it's so it's just bubbling. And yeah, I don't, you know, and you know, being a Buddhist teacher and a leader in certain ways in my community, and And being just a woman and a Black woman and a person that is just reeling from everything and feeling everything. And I think sometimes you think, oh, you're a Buddhist teacher, you're supposed to, you know, have equanimity about everything all the time. And that's not true at all.
Well, let me quote a relative who was Buddhist, and
Yeah,
she like threw something at her husband, and he said, "Well, I thought you were Buddhist. I thought you were always supposed to have equanimity." And she said, "I'm a Buddhist, not a Buddha."
right, right. Exactly, exactly. I mean, it's not, you know, it's just, you know, the reality is that we're all here and living this life and doing the best we can. And I love the Buddha and I love Buddhism and all of what how it, I mean, I don't even know who I would be without my practice, and the principles around the Buddha Dharma. And so it is absolutely, you know, holding me together on so many levels in my life and allowing me, and the human person who feels, I mean, if anything, it feels like this community, you know, would be the most enraged because of we know that how deeply interconnected we are, that we know that, you know, we're not in this by ourselves, and we hopefully understand the two truths. And I want to say something about that now that it's come up for me. I didn't know what I was going to say here today, and now I'm just talking. But the concept of the two truths in the Buddha Dharma is, and particularly different branches of Buddhism have different emphasis on which one is more important in terms of the universal and absolute truth and the relative truth. And in Theravada, which is the lineage that I come from, they are equal. They are equal. It's not like the universal. The universal truth is that we are all one. That you know, that the, you know, again, the example that Lama Tsomo uses about the ocean, you know, all one, the ocean with different waves of the ocean. And the relative is the different waves, right? That we are also live this life that, you know, right here, I sit here and I am a Black woman in America, and that's my relative truth. And my universal truth is that, you know, there's this oneness, and we know that race is a construct anyway. If you don't know it, just look it up. It is a total construct. But it has real consequences. It has real impact on people's lives, obviously. And so one of the things that I find in these spiritual, progressive type of communities is this tendency to go to the universal. We're one. And to stay and hang out there because it's way more comfortable than actually living through the relative truth that Black people are systematically have state-sanctioned violence on their bodies since the beginning of this country. And not to mention everybody else, the genocide of the indigenous people, and on and on. And so that is also the relative truth that's just as important as this universal. And so, you know, our minds don't do well with paradox. It's a paradox. A paradox are two things that seem to be the opposite sitting in the same place. And they both are true, equally so. Equally so. It's not like, let's dissolve the relative and move to this oneness and universal. It's how do we bring the truths of the universal into the relative and the relative into the universal?
Or another way we can say it is to hold both equally. They're both called truth.
That's right.
And if you
That's
let go of one truth, or you go on to into one truth and at the expense of the other and let go of the other, either way you run into trouble because that's not reality.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Living only in the relative world and not understanding our deep connection. I mean, that is what's gotten us off the rails, right? That's the stuff that has created the world we live in right now that's completely off the rails, not feeling the interconnection of anything other than me, you know? And so, and then on the other side, just going totally to the universal and not doing, and not acknowledging the relative, because see, the relative, because in our minds, the relative is a problem. The relative is a problem because we live it as a problem. We live race as a problem. And instead of the beauty that culture is, the beauty that I love my culture. I don't want you to say, I don't see race, I don't see culture, I don't see you as a Black woman. When you say that, you actually are denying me, who I am, my full culture, and the beauty that I have in that. So that is not the answer to say, I don't see it. Yes, see me and acknowledge me and honor me and all those other beautiful rainbows that we are on this planet. You know, it's about learning to honor and love all of it, the entire rainbow, versus not seeing it because it's problematic and going to the universal. So we use the universal, and this is called, what is this called, spiritual bypass, right?
Right.
We answer the relative world with a universal answer, you know, and
My rabbi said it was kind of like a substitute for drugs when you did it that way.
yeah, and I just want to caution people not to do that. You know, we need to go through everything that's going on here. Go through it, not around it, not skip over it, not bypass it, but to go through it and to look at ourselves and our own complicity, where we hold up the supremacy in this country, in our lives, where we fall down or hide from and don't tell the truth about our own existence. And then that big gap happens between ourselves and ourselves,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because somewhere we're not living what our highest ideals are. And we all do that. We all do that. And so this practice to me just gets me closer and closer to living, you know, living the preciousness and honoring the sacredness of all life, and coming through everything as much as possible instead of bypassing and going around it. That's what this practice does. It's mindfulness. It's right here, right now. It's like right here. What is this reality right now? What is this reality in this moment?
Yeah. So in the Vajrayana tradition, they talk about the middle way, and it's this holding of the two truths, which seem to be at odds with each other. It seemed to be an oxymoron or something.
Right.
But actually, the whole truth encompasses all of that.
Yeah.
And I think you've probably heard me talk about David Bohm, who used to say, he was a great physicist who also had a lot of conversations with Krishnamurti. And he said, the further our understanding is from true reality, the more suffering we'll create for ourselves, and I would add others.
Yeah.
And the closer our vision of reality is to actual reality, the more beautiful and the more joyous existence can be, because it's actually in Vajrayana is seen as a pure land. It's beautiful if we could really see it as it is, in all of the colors and facets and uniqueness of each wave and so on. Then it's something absolute. We're in heaven, actually. But the hell we create is, you know, from our own dissonance with what is.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah.
But and I hope I'm not making it sound like it's easy, because, you know, crossing that gap is not easy. We've got some entrenched mental habits that are very ingrained and unconscious. So I want to just add that.
And, you know, there's a reward system in place also. to ignore that which is whole.
Mm-hmm.
There's a reward system in place in our culture. And so, you know, it's easy to go towards that which you get rewarded.
Right.
And
And people could understand that reward is so puny and shallow and, you know, worthless compared to the reward of stepping into real reality. If people knew that, we
yeah,
wouldn't settle for those rewards.
you know, the cost is our humanity. You know,
Mm,
that's
yeah,
the cost. And it seems like we're winning, but we're losing our humanity.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so that's the cost. And somehow we have valued things over our humanity and the humanity of others and all life on earth and this planet and that flower and that tree. And, you know, we have a values issue.
Huh.
And what we value is pretty twisted. And that's a big part of what we've built. You know, I mean, the bottom line, I had a conversation with a friend of mine yesterday, a white male friend of mine who's my business partner, who I really adore. And he and I were in this deep conversation about all of this stuff, you know, and what we value is really a key problem of where we are, because basically our worldview, our storytelling, our narrative, the way we see the world, the lens through which we operate is at the core of what I think of as our madness.
Oh, yeah.
And so what that means is that we need to, you know, what we do is we put Band-Aids on the top of a wound and we don't get down to the core, like really get down to the base of it. And what is at the base of it is a mindset of how I think and how this culture has taught us to think about me. It's about me. It's not about we.
Mm-hmm.
It's about me. It's about me, my family, my version of what me is, this small me.
Mm-hmm.
And the definition of me really needs to expand. What, who, and what is me?
Yeah.
But with a small me, as long as we do that, and that's our worldview, that we have dominion over all other species. I mean, you know, one of the biggest pains in my life is species extinction
Mm.
from human activity.
Yeah.
We don't care. We think that we rule the roost and, you know, so be it.
Mm-hmm.
Each other, the planet, this whole idea of hierarchy, this hierarchy, whether it's the global north over the global south, whether it's country by country, whether it's, you know, gender, male over female, race, you know, the white race over everybody else. We have this thing around hierarchy that is very problematic. And it's our worldview. It's the way we see it. It's what we've been taught. It's what we've been taught. And we replicate it in so many ways, subtle and not so subtle ways. And so at the core of changing any system,
Mm-hmm.
and so I'm talking personal now, and see, this is a personal issue and a systemic issue, right?
Mm-hmm.
But at the core of any system to change it is to change the mindset upon which it was built.
Yeah.
And you got to be able to look at that. And it's like turning a lens back towards yourself. It's very hard to do. It's not easy to do, to see what motivates me. You just think, oh, well, you know, I'm a good person. And I'm sure you are. You know, I'm a good person. I'm a good person. And what are the many subtle ways that I move and what I want and what I get and what I don't want? And it's so complex being a human being on this planet. And most of us take the easy way out by, just going buying something and being a consumer and calling it quits and turn on the television or whatever we do. But to really take deeper look into what is motivating me and my family and what came down from my parents and from my ancestors, what is the lineage that served me and that doesn't serve me, that serves humanity and doesn't serve humanity. What am I replicating? Those are the questions that need to come to bear, because in order for us to change, to really transform, we have to change our mindset and our mind heart right here. That's what needs to be looked at in order for the outward also to shift.
Well, yeah, and that means looking at a lot of the stuff that's hanging around, underneath our conscious mind.
Yeah,
that's right. In the unconscious, and right. All the looking at unconscious bias, which, being willing to do that. The book Blind Spot has tests in there that the social scientists created, and they took the test themselves and flunked them. They had bias. And they each, in the privacy of their own home, took the test, said, no, that can't be, took it again and again and got the same score.
Yeah.
So they had to look at that.
Bias is really hard not to have. I mean, it's part of our discernment almost. Like, how do we discern things? How do we discern? How do we judge? What is the difference between discernment and judgment? What is that thin line? What is that so bias is like, I have a preference. Is it preference? I have a preference to have a iPhone instead of a Samsung or whatever those other things that people have. We all have our preferences, and then those preferences and biases start to mingle, and then where is that line? I have a friend that I can give you the information for her work that she does. And she's doing some really great work around bias, written a book and does workshops and what have you. And I can give you her information afterwards if people are interested, to really look at and understand our biases.
Well, and there's this friend of mine, Frances Moore LePay, who flips around the common seeing is believing and says, believing is seeing. What you believe then dictates what you'll see.
Yeah.
It affects your lens. It shapes your lens, and that shapes the whole world that you see.
That's exactly right.
And then you act from that.
That's exactly right. Yeah. And so, I think what this moment is showing us is that, it's not working. What we've created.
Of course, it doesn't work.
A lot of us have known that for a long time, but a lot of things are not working. And I think we're moved by, I'm so moved by the young people in the street. I'm so happy they're out there. I am so happy that they are out there, and that it is a multicultural rainbow coalition of people who are just saying stop. And I think that, we all are now, I hope we all, most of us are taking a deeper inventory. And, there's so much pain. There's so much pain and suffering. There's so much pain and suffering and delusion. And this world of delusion is just really having its way. Really having its way.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Wow. Well, I mean, everything you're saying, so important and so resonant at this time. And I was wondering if you would be interested in leading a meditation right now. if we all sat together in meditation. Would you be interested?
Sure, I think I could do that.
Or really,
Yeah,
check, see if that feels right.
yeah. I want to say that before we do that, typically there's a Q&A on something like this. And with all transparency, I was asked about a Q&A, and I said I'd rather not. I'm sorry that this is a one-way street, and I apologize for that.
Please don't apologize.
Well, I just know that, when I'm in these kind of communities, it's like talking heads. It's like sometimes the last thing you want, and particularly when you have burning questions around this. And I bet that there's a lot of burning questions out there. And what I didn't want is to put myself in a position to have to answer them. Mm-hmm. So I'm just really letting you know that we're not having a Q&A because I've said I can't do it. And that's just real for me right now. So, yeah.
Yeah, we build this as, not a forum for answers at this time.
Yeah, and I really appreciated the framing, by the way, too. Lama Tsomo, thank you for that framing and having people, and the way you introduced this today, setting the stage for people to what the expectations are and are not. So I'm happy to just allow ourselves to come to a place of going inside right now. So I think it's probably a really good moment for us all to take a deep breath in and let it out. And another deep breath in. And just really let it out with a sigh if you can, dropping the shoulders down away from the ears and just checking in with the body right now. This conversation has probably gotten parts of your body a little tight somewhere. So I want you to do a little body scan. Notice where there might be tightness, constriction. Starting from the top of the head all the way through the face. Often my jaw is the one that gets really tight. And the forehead, wrinkles. Maybe we can let go. Maybe you can invite in a sense of calm. And relaxing the torso and feeling the pelvic area. And feel yourself grounded. Feeling from the pelvic area down through the legs to the feet. Feeling a sense of groundedness. The earth element. Feel earth, sitting on earth. Feeling the heaviness of the bones and the hard bones in the body sitting, anchoring, earth element. And now bring in your awareness to, as the body is still, Notice the wind element now, the breath. Inside the still body is the movement of the breath. Relaxing. Really letting go right now and noticing what you may have released in this few moments we've had so far, where you were tight, where you released. Being aware if that might be the place that you tighten up when things are uncomfortable. Needs to please. Thank you. Noticing where you tighten up when there is discomfort. Can you be in discomfort? And bring your awareness to the discomfort. And know that it is in the discomfort zone where we do our best learning, in that discomfort zone. So instead of avoiding the discomfort zone, can we breathe through it? Can we learn to relax into it? And yet stand in it, knowing that this is where we learn. And just bringing to mind as well, where is your discomfort zone? Are there words that I said today that triggered discomfort for you? Can that also be a place of learning? Going back to earth element, feeling the body, the lower body, thinking down to the earth, being supported by earth, being made of earth. We can always touch the earth, as the Buddha did, touching of the earth. And back to the breath. That wind element animating the body. effortlessly. Allowing ourselves in this time of inner and outer challenge. Can we sit in the middle of it? Can we not go around it or bypass it, but partner with it? Knowing that we may say or do the quote unquote wrong thing, but just keep showing up and keep learning. And keep breathing. And keep touching the earth. Peace and blessings, everyone.
Konda, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming to this Come As You Are party. And you brought so much. I'm so grateful. So thank you
for inviting me and allowing me to show up just as I am. Thank you all. I would love to, if you could save the chat, because I'd love to see what people are saying. I can do it myself. I know how to do that. I learned how to do it. Save chat. Bam. I just did it.
How did you do that?
So do you see where it says everyone down in the chat now? If you open up the chat box.
Yeah.
Whatever you see, there's 3 dots to the right of it.
Oh, let's see.
A little box with 3 dots in it.
Yeah. Save chat.
Save chat, baby.
Cool. You just gave me another teaching.
I'm full of teaching.
Right. Oh, again, thank you so much. And I just am sitting in a very different place after sitting with you. Thank you for that.
Oh, thank you for having me. Honestly, it wasn't, you know, it was good. I was nervous about me not being available, emotionally available for this, and yeah, you all helped me as well. So I appreciate it's always reciprocal, even though you were silent over there. The reciprocity is always there, and I appreciate that. I appreciate you all showing up.
Yeah, I appreciate. I felt everybody here in this too, and I was also nervous. I had no idea, you know.
What were you nervous about?
Oh, I am always worried about screwing up. That's my favorite thing to worry about. So I was worried about that again, and there's no script with this, right? And so, I was just gonna go with it. And yeah, so, but yeah, I always have that, and I just go with it anyway. And,
Yeah, well, you and I, we've shared so much. We know each other so well. And that was my comfort zone. I needed to have that to do this today. So, I love you.
Right back at you. And I was sitting in this with you, so I felt good just being here with you.
Yeah. Very cool. And thank you, everyone. And I have to give another shout out to my friend Lev, who is in the house, I see. And I love you, man. I miss you, and we got to connect. And I'm sure there's others out there that I know. And peace and blessings to everyone. Stay engaged, y'all. Don't shrink from this moment. Step into it boldly, fully, and keep learning. Keep learning. Keep learning. There's so much to learn. And the more you learn, the more courageous you become. The more you learn, the more courageous you become. And that's what needs to happen. We need courageous people right now.
Yeah, at this time, the option of sitting on the fence doesn't exist.
No, it does not. It does not. It is a part of the problem. You're sitting on the fence. You are part of the problem.
Yeah.
Straight up. So,
yeah. Yeah, or you think you're sitting on the fence. You think you can just sit this out. Yeah.
That's right. So, yeah. All right.
Thank you so much.
Peace and blessings to everyone. And take care of yourselves out there. Be well. Be safe. Wash your hands. Stuff like that.
Yeah, you too. Love you, Konda.
Love you too, sweetie. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.